The unexpected rival Jake Morrison thought his war days were over. The veteran soldier had traded his plasma rifle for a wrench, his tactical gear for oil-stained coveralls. His small repair shop in the mountains of Colorado was supposed to be his sanctuary, a place where the only battles he fought were against stubborn engine parts and temperamental hover bikes. The snow-capped peaks surrounding his workshop provided the perfect backdrop for a man trying to forget the horrors of the Centauri conflict. That peaceful morning shattered when his motion sensors screamed to life. Jake dropped his coffee mug, muscle memory kicking in as he reached for the emergency beacon. Through the frosted window, he saw her, 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed amber in the morning light. She stood in his driveway like she owned the place, her breathing creating small clouds in the frigid air. Zara Valthari had followed him across 3 star systems. The Caltharian warrior had shed her ceremonial armor for something resembling human clothing. Though her attempt at blending in was laughable, her coat hung awkwardly on her tall frame, and her boots were clearly military issue from a civilization that didn't understand Earth fashion. She carried herself with the predatory grace of someone who had never known defeat. Yet there was something almost vulnerable in the way she clutched a small datapad to her chest. Jake stepped outside, his breath forming white puffs as he spoke. "You're a long way from home, Zara." He tried to keep his voice steady, but seeing her again brought back memories of burning planets and desperate last stands. She had saved his life during the siege of Kepler Station, pulling him from the wreckage when his squad had been overrun by mechanical drones. "I am exactly where I need to be," she replied, her voice carrying that familiar harmonic undertone that made human electronics glitch. "My honor debt remains unpaid, Jake Morrison. Among my people, such debts pass beyond the boundaries of war." "The war's over," Jake said, though his hand instinctively moved toward the concealed weapon at his belt. "We're not soldiers anymore." Zara's laugh was like distant thunder. "You saved my life when the plasma conduits exploded. You carried me to safety when I was too wounded to walk. In Caltharian culture, such acts create bonds that transcend time and space." She gestured toward the mountains. "Your world is beautiful, but it lacks proper defenses. I have come to remedy this." Jake stared at her in disbelief. "You want to fortify my repair shop. I want to protect what matters to you," she corrected, "which, by extension, means protecting you." She pulled out the datapad, showing him tactical analysis of his property. "Your perimeter is laughably exposed. Any competent assassin could eliminate you from 17 different angles. Your early warning systems are outdated by 3 decades. Nobody's trying to kill me," Jake protested. "I fix hover bikes and sell spare parts. The most dangerous thing that happens here is when Mrs. Henderson's cat gets stuck in the ventilation system." Zara's expression grew serious. "The Caltharian Council has branded me a traitor for my actions during the war. They consider any human I associated with to be a corrupting influence. There are hunters coming, Jake. They seek to eliminate evidence of our cooperation." Before Jake could respond, she was already moving toward his workshop, her long legs covering the distance in powerful strides. "Your living quarters are adequate, though poorly positioned for defensive purposes. I will require sleeping arrangements that allow for rapid deployment in case of attack." "Wait, hold on," Jake called after her. "You can't just move in. This is my home, my business. I have a life here." Zara paused at the workshop door, her amber eyes meeting his. For a moment, the warrior's mask slipped, revealing something Jake had never seen before: uncertainty. "Do you wish me to leave?" The question hung in the cold mountain air. Jake looked at this alien warrior who had traveled across the galaxy to protect him, who had given up everything she knew to honor a debt he didn't think needed paying. He thought about the loneliness that had settled over him since returning to Earth, the way civilian life felt like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. "I guess you can stay," he said finally, "but we need to establish some ground rules." Zara's smile was radiant. "Of course, Rule 1, I handle all security protocols. Rule 2, your coffee is terrible and will be replaced with proper Caltharian stimulants. Rule 3, your defensive perimeter will be expanded to include the entire valley." Jake watched her disappear into his workshop and wondered what he had just agreed to. Through the window, he could see her examining his tools with the intensity of a general planning a campaign. His quiet life in the mountains was about to become anything but quiet. The sound of metal being rearranged echoed from the workshop, accompanied by what sounded like Zara singing a war chant. Jake picked up his dropped coffee mug and sighed. He had survived alien invasions, plasma storms, and 3 different court-martials. How hard could it be to survive one grateful alien warrior? Defensive modifications be the end of the first week. Jake's repair shop looked like a military installation designed by someone who had never seen Earth architecture. Zara had optimized his workspace with the efficiency of a tactical engineer and the subtlety of an orbital bombardment. His tool bench now doubled as a weapons cache, complete with hidden compartments that opened with biometric locks. The coffee maker had been replaced with a device that brewed something that tasted like liquid lightning and apparently enhanced reflexes. This is supposed to be a legitimate business. Jake protested as he watched Zara install what appeared to be a plasma cannon disguised as a satellite dish. The local authorities are going to notice if I'm broadcasting military-grade signals. Zara paused in her work, wiping her hands on a cloth that had definitely not come from Earth. Your planetary defense forces are remarkably primitive. This equipment operates on frequencies they cannot detect. She gestured toward the mountains. Besides, your neighbor Mrs. Henderson has been conducting unauthorized surveillance of your property for weeks. She is either a very dedicated spy or romantically interested in your activities. Jake choked on his alien coffee. Mrs. Henderson is 83 years old and runs the local book club. Perfect cover, Zara said seriously. I have observed her using advanced optical equipment to monitor your daily routines. She knows exactly when you eat, when you work, and when you sleep. Classic reconnaissance patterns. Before Jake could explain that Mrs. Henderson was just a curious neighbor with expensive binoculars, his work comm buzzed with an incoming job request. A local rancher needed his atmospheric processor repaired. Simple work, the kind that paid well and didn't require explaining why his shop now featured retractable defensive barriers. I need to go on a service call, Jake announced, grabbing his toolkit. Try not to militarize the entire valley while I'm gone. Zara's expression grew concerned. You cannot travel alone. It is tactically unsound. It's a broken air recycler, not a military campaign, Jake replied. I'll be back in a few hours. He didn't expect to find Zara waiting in his hover truck. When he reached the vehicle, she had somehow compressed her tall frame into the passenger seat, her knees nearly touching her chin. She wore civilian clothes that almost looked normal, if you ignored the fact that her jacket was clearly armored, and her boots could probably survive a direct meteor impact. This is unnecessary, Jake said as he started the engine. Protecting you is necessary, Zara replied. I have analyzed the route to the ranch. 17 potential ambush points, 3 natural choke points, and 1 bridge that could be easily destroyed. To prevent escape, Jake drove in silence for several minutes, trying to process the fact that his peaceful mountain valley now required tactical analysis. The scenery that had once brought him comfort now felt different, with Zara pointing out strategic vulnerabilities and escape routes dotted the ranch. Things got complicated. Tom Bradley, the owner, was a veteran himself who recognized military bearing. When he saw it, his eyes widened when Zara emerged from the truck, her imposing height and predatory grace making her look like something from a warrior's legend. Friend of yours? Tom asked, his hand unconsciously moving toward the rifle mounted in his truck. Something like that, Jake replied, hoping to avoid explanations about intergalactic honor debts and alien warriors. The repair work should have been routine. Jake had fixed dozens of atmospheric processors, but this one had been sabotaged. The damage was precise, surgical, designed to create a cascade failure that would have killed anyone standing nearby. When the system activated, someone had wanted Tom Bradley dead, and they had wanted it to look like an accident. Zara examined the damaged components with the eye of someone who understood both technology and warfare. This is professional work, she said quietly. The saboteur has extensive knowledge of human technology and Caltharian demolition techniques. Jake felt a chill. That had nothing to do with the mountain air. You think your people are already here? I think we are no longer alone in this conflict, Zara replied. She looked at Tom Bradley, who was pretending not to listen while obviously hanging on every word. Your friend may be in danger simply because he knows you. As they drove back to the shop, Jake realized that his quiet life was truly over. The war had followed him home, carried by an alien warrior who had given up everything to protect him. But as he glanced at Zara, studying tactical maps on her datapad, while humming what sounded like a battle hymn, he realized he wasn't entirely unhappy about the change. The mountains didn't seem quite so lonely anymore. The hunter's gambit attack came at dawn, when the mountain mist still clung to the valleys like ghostly fingers. Jake was awakened not by his alarm, but by the subtle vibration of Zara's defensive systems coming online. The Caltharian warrior was already moving through his workshop with deadly grace, her casual civilian clothes replaced by form-fitting, tactical gear that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. How many? Jake whispered, reaching for the plasma rifle she had insisted he keep beside his bed. 3 confirmed hostiles, Zara replied, her voice carrying the calm precision of someone who had faced death countless times. Caltharian strike team, military-grade equipment. They have been watching us for 2 days. Jake cursed under his breath. He had been hoping this day would never come. That maybe the alien politics that had driven Zara to Earth would eventually fade away. But looking at her now, seeing the way she moved with lethal purpose, he realized that some conflicts never truly end. The first hunter made his move while Jake was still trying to process the situation. A 7-foot-tall figure in adaptive camouflage materialized from the morning mist, moving toward the workshop with the fluid grace of a predator. Zara was ready for him. Her defensive systems activated with a sound like thunder, and suddenly, the air was full of energy discharges that lit up the valley like an aurora. "Stay down," Zara commanded, but Jake was already moving. His military training kicked in as he rolled behind a reinforced workbench, his rifle charging with a high-pitched whine. Through the chaos, he could see Zara engaging the first hunter. In close combat, their movements almost too fast for human eyes to follow. The second hunter came through the roof, dropping through the skylight with precision that spoke of extensive surveillance and planning. Jake opened fire, his shots forcing the alien to take cover behind what used to be his parts inventory. The hunter returned fire with a weapon that made Jake's rifle look like a child's toy. Energy blasts that left molten holes in the workshop walls, but it was the third hunter that nearly ended everything. While Jake and Zara were focused on the obvious threats, the third alien had positioned himself for a killing shot from the ridge line. Jake saw the targeting laser painting Zara's back and moved without thinking, tackling her to the ground just as the sniper's shot carved through the air, where she had been standing. "Foolish human," Zara growled, but there was something in her voice that sounded almost like gratitude. "You should have stayed in cover." "Yeah, well, someone's got to keep you alive," Jake replied, helping her to her feet. "You're the only one who knows how to work the coffee maker." The battle was brief but intense. Zara's modifications to the workshop proved their worth as automated defenses engaged the hunters from multiple angles. The aliens were skilled, but they had underestimated both the human capacity for adaptation and the Caltharian talent for defensive engineering. When the shooting stopped, 2 of the hunters were down, and the third had retreated to the ridge, lying out in the aftermath as they surveyed the damage to Jake's workshop. Zara's expression was unreadable. "They will send more," she said finally. "The council considers you a corrupting influence on their warriors. They will not stop until one of us is dead." Jake looked at the smoking remains of his peaceful life and made a decision that surprised even him. "Then we don't wait for them to come to us." Zara turned to face him, her amber eyes reflecting something that might have been hope. "You would fight beside me? Even though this is not your war, you made it my war when you decided to protect me," Jake replied. "Besides, I'm getting tired of people shooting up my workshop." That evening, as they planned their next move, Jake realized that somewhere between the defensive modifications and the morning's battle, everything had changed. Zara was no longer just an alien warrior paying an honor debt. She was his partner, his ally, and maybe something more. The way she looked at him when she thought he wasn't watching. The way she unconsciously moved to shield him during the fight. These weren't the actions of someone motivated purely by duty. "Why did you really come here?" Jake asked as they worked to repair the damage to his shop. Zara was quiet for a long moment, her hands steady as she rewired a damaged defensive array. "Among my people, we have a saying, the heart chooses its own battles. I told myself I came here to honor a debt, but perhaps I came here because I could not bear to be apart from the one who showed me that honor exists beyond the boundaries of species." Jake stopped working and looked at her, really looked at her. The proud warrior who had crossed the galaxy to protect him, who had given up everything she knew for a human she had fought beside for only a few days during the war. The alien who had somehow become the most important person in his life. "So, what happens now?" he asked. Zara's smile was fierce and beautiful. "Now we show the council that some bonds cannot be broken by distance, politics, or even death. We fight together, as we were meant to." Outside, the mountains stood silent and watchful, but Jake no longer felt alone. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Bonds beyond species. The message arrived 3 days later, delivered by a courier drone that looked like it had been designed by someone who had never seen Earth technology. The holographic projection that materialized in Jake's workshop showed a figure in elaborate ceremonial armor, face hidden behind a mask that seemed to shift and change as it spoke. "Zara Valthari," the figure intoned, "you have been found guilty of species betrayal and corruption of alien minds. You will return to face judgment, or your human will face the consequences of your defiance." Jake watched Zara's reaction carefully. The warrior's expression remained neutral, but he could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands unconsciously moved to weapons that weren't there. "My commander from the war," she explained after the message ended. "High Inquisitor Kefver. He believes that any interaction with humans weakens Caltharian purity." "Sounds like a real charmer," Jake muttered. "I'm guessing diplomacy isn't an option?" Zara's laugh was bitter. "Kefver would rather see me dead than contaminated by human influence. He views our bond as a threat to everything he believes about Caltharian superiority." That night, Jake found himself unable to sleep. He stood on the observation deck Zara had built, looking out over the valley that had become their shared home. The defensive systems hummed quietly in the background, a constant reminder that their peace was fragile. When Zara joined him, moving with that predatory grace that no longer seemed alien to him, he didn't need to ask what she was thinking. "Tell me about your people," he said instead. "Not the warrior culture, not the politics. Tell me about who you were before the war." Zara was quiet for so long that Jake thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a warmth he had rarely heard. "I was an engineer, actually, specializing in atmospheric systems and life support technology. My family thought I was wasting my abilities when I joined the military." Jake turned to look at her. "An engineer? And here I thought you were just naturally gifted at turning my workshop into a fortress." "I wanted to build things that would help people survive in hostile environments," Zara continued. "The irony is not lost on me that I became very skilled at creating hostile environments instead." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars that seemed so much brighter now. That Jake knew some of them had been Zara's home. The alien warrior who had crossed the galaxy to protect him was also a builder, a creator, someone who understood the value of making things work. It explains so much about her approach to defending his workshop, the way she had transformed his space into something that was both fortress and home. "What were you building?" Jake asked. "Before the war, I mean." Zara's smile was sad and beautiful. "Habitat domes for frontier colonies, places where different species could live together safely. My designs were used on 17 different worlds." She paused. "Keffer had them all destroyed after I was branded a traitor. He said they were monuments to racial corruption." Jake felt a surge of anger on her behalf. "He destroyed your life's work because you saved a human soldier. He destroyed my life's work because I proved that cooperation was possible," Zara corrected. "That Caltharians could work alongside humans without losing their identity." Such ideas are dangerous to those who profit from fear and hatred. The next morning brought unexpected visitors. A small convoy of vehicles made their way up the mountain road, and Jake recognized the lead driver as General Patricia Hayes, his former commanding officer. The woman who stepped out of the military transport looked exactly as Jake remembered her. Steel gray hair, eyes that missed nothing, and the bearing of someone who had never met a problem she couldn't solve with sufficient application of force. Well, Hayes said, looking around at the obviously militarized workshop. When the orbital monitors picked up alien energy signatures, I figured I'd find you in the middle of it somehow, Morrison. Jake stepped forward, acutely aware of Zara's presence behind him. General Hayes, I'd say it's good to see you, but I'm guessing this isn't a social call. Hayes' expression grew serious. We've been monitoring Caltharian communication channels. There's a battle fleet heading for Earth, and according to our intelligence, it's all about one rogue warrior and the human she's protecting. Her eyes shifted to Zara. You must be the famous Zara Valthari. Zara stepped forward, her posture respectful but not submissive. I am, and I assume you are here to discuss the threat to your world. Among other things, Hayes replied, we've been analyzing the data from your recent encounters with Caltharian hunters. Your defensive modifications are impressive, but they're not going to stop a battle fleet. Jake felt his heart sink. How long do we have? 72 hours. Maybe less, Hayes said, but there might be another option. We've been in contact with a faction of Caltharian rebels who oppose the High Inquisitor's policies. They're willing to help, but they need proof that human Caltharian cooperation is possible. Zara's eyes lit up with understanding. They want to see our bond in action. They want to see what Kepher fears most, a human and Caltharian fighting as equals. Hayes nodded. We're assembling a joint task force. Human and Caltharian ships working together to stop the Inquisitor's fleet. The question is, are you two ready to show the galaxy what real cooperation looks like? Jake looked at Zara, seeing the hope and determination in her amber eyes. The quiet life in the mountains was truly over now. But maybe that was okay. Maybe some things were worth fighting for, even if it meant risking everything. When do we leave? He asked. Unity forged in Starfireth joint fleet assembled in the shadow of Luna Station looked like something from a fever dream. Human vessels, angular and practical, floated alongside Caltharian ships that seemed to have been grown rather than built. The organic curves of alien technology contrasted sharply with the industrial efficiency of Earth's fleet, but there was a strange harmony in their formation. Two species that had once been enemies now prepared to fight together against those who would see cooperation as weakness. Jake stood on the bridge of the flagship, a hybrid vessel that represented the best of both technologies. Zara worked beside him at the tactical station, her hands dancing over controls that responded to both human and Caltharian interfaces. 3 days ago, Jake had been a simple repair shop owner. Now he was helping coordinate a battle that would determine the future of two civilizations. Inquisitor Kepher's fleet is dropping out of hyperspace, reported Commander Liu, the human officer who had volunteered to serve under joint command. 27 ships, all heavy cruisers. They're not here to negotiate. Zara's expression hardened as she studied the tactical display. Kepher always believed that overwhelming force was the only language other species could understand. He will target the hybrid vessels first, trying to eliminate evidence of our cooperation. The communication channel crackled to life, and the familiar figure in shifting ceremonial armor appeared before them. High Inquisitor Kepher looked exactly as Jake had imagined, arrogant, fanatical, and completely convinced of his own righteousness. Zara Valthari, the Inquisitor's voice carried across space like a judgment. You have corrupted yourself beyond redemption. Surrender now, and your human pets will be granted quick deaths. Zara stepped forward, her spine straight and her voice carrying the authority of someone who had faced impossible odds and survived. I have found something you could never understand, Kepher. I have found strength in unity, courage in cooperation, and honor in defending those who cannot defend themselves. The Inquisitor's mask shifted, revealing something that might have been discussed. You speak of honor while standing beside inferior beings. You have forgotten what it means to be Caltharian. I have remembered what it means to be alive, Zera replied. You offer only death and the worship of a glorious past. We offer a future where different species can achieve more together than they ever could apart. The battle began with a silence that seemed to stretch across the void. Then space erupted in a cascade of energy as two fleets clashed. With the fury of opposing philosophies, HFY's forces attacked with the precision of a military machine, their movements coordinated by centuries of tactical doctrine. But the joint fleet fought with something the Inquisitor's forces lacked: the unpredictability of true cooperation. Human ships provided cover for Caltharian vessels whose weapons could punch through enemy armor. Alien fighters danced around human capital ships, their organic technology adapting to threats faster than programmed responses could counter. Jake found himself coordinating strike patterns that combined the best of both species' tactical approaches, while Zera directed defensive measures that protected ships she would have been ordered to destroy just months before. The turning point came when HFY's flagship broke through the joint fleet's perimeter, heading directly for their hybrid command vessel. The Inquisitor wanted to destroy the symbol of cooperation, to eliminate Zera and Jake in a display of fanatical fury. He's targeting the bridge, Commander Liu reported. His main guns are charging. Jake looked at Zera, seeing his own determination reflected in her amber eyes. They had come too far to let fanaticism triumph over hope. We ran them, not without destroying ourselves, Zera replied. Then her expression changed, becoming something fierce and beautiful. But there is another way. The hybrid technology in this ship, it can create a feedback loop in their weapons systems. If I can interface directly with their targeting computers, it'll kill you, Jake said, understanding immediately what she was planning. Zera's smile was radiant. It will save everyone else, including you. Jake grabbed her hand before she could reach the interface console. No, we do this together, or we don't do it at all. Understanding passed between them like an electric current. They had fought together, built together, defended each other across the void of space. Now they would face whatever came next as partners, as equals, as something that transcended species boundaries. Together, they linked into the hybrid system, their combined consciousness flowing through networks of living technology and quantum processors. The feedback loop they created was more powerful than either could have achieved alone, a harmony of human intuition and Caltharian precision that overwhelmed HFY's targeting systems. The Inquisitor's flagship shuddered as its own weapons turned against it, energy cascading through systems that had never been designed to handle feedback. From bonded minds, HFY's voice echoed across the communication channel one final time. Impossible. You are different species. You cannot. We are whatever we choose to be. Zera whispered, her voice carrying across space to reach every ship in both fleets. The Inquisitor's flagship went dark, its weapons systems overloaded, its crew forced to evacuate to support vessels. The remaining fanatical forces retreated. But their retreat was more than tactical. It was ideological. They had seen proof that cooperation was not only possible, but more powerful than the hatred they had been taught to embrace. In the aftermath, as the joint fleet regrouped and began rescue operations, Jake and Zera stood together on the observation deck of their hybrid ship. Earth hung in the view screen before them, blue and beautiful and safe. The Caltharian rebel fleet had already begun sending messages to other worlds, spreading word of what they had witnessed. So what happens now? Jake asked, the same question he had posed weeks ago in his mountain workshop. Zera's answer was different this time, filled with hope instead of uncertainty. Now we build habitat domes for mixed colonies, ships that can carry both our species to new worlds, a future where the bonds between people matter more than the distance between stars. Jake squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth of her alien skin against his. Sounds like a pretty good retirement plan. Zera laughed, the sound carrying joy and promise. For an engineer and a mechanic, it should be quite an adventure. Together, they watched Earth turn slowly in the void, no longer the hiding place of a broken soldier and his alien protector, but the starting point for something unprecedented in galactic history. Love had crossed the boundaries between species, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy that unity was not only possible but inevitable. The stars had never looked so bright with possibility.